And welcome back to the Upside Sports Network. My name is Michael. Really appreciate you guys joining us after midnight anyway. Trade deadline is, well, less than about 12 to 15 hours away. But we have a massive trade. Kevin Durant has been traded by the Brooklyn Nets to the Phoenix Suns for 4 first-round picks, Mikal Bridges, Jay Crowder, Cam Johnson, and a number of other draft considerations as well. Now, details of this trade are still coming in, so kind of bear with us as we kind of sort through it. But we saw 2 big trades now over the past 30 minutes. We thought we'd come back live for you guys, especially for a trade of the magnitude of Kevin Durant. The West is certainly loading up over the past 3 or 4 days. The LA Lakers certainly have, with Rui Hachimura first and foremost. Then the trade they make today gets them 3 more rotation pieces. D'Angelo Russell, Jared Vanderbilt, and Malik Beasley. The Dallas Mavericks make their move. They send out Spencer Dinwiddie and Dorian Finney-Smith. That starts the selling process for the Brooklyn Nets, sending Kyrie Irving to the Dallas Mavericks. Then this trade here, Kevin Durant ends up in Phoenix. CP3 is still there. Devin Booker is still there. DeAndre Ayton is still there. Outside of that, the roster has been pretty much gutted by this trade here. We'll see if they have a little bit of a bench, but Kevin Durant once again joins a super team and joins a big 4, if you will. Remember his time with the Golden State Warriors, how successful that was? That was obviously a very different time frame for the Golden State Warriors. All those players were entering their prime. They had a lot of success. With the Phoenix Suns here, Ayton is the only player besides Booker that can make that claim that they're still in the prime of their career. Durant, while he's still a very good NBA player, is not necessarily in the prime of his career. He's starting to get towards the back end of his career now. CP3 is certainly in the twilight of his career, but for the Phoenix Suns, this is one big stab. This is the thing ownership really wanted to do. The Phoenix Suns have been trying to get Kevin Durant for the better part of a year now. This offseason, we saw the machinations kind of unfolding with the Brooklyn Nets. Trade request for Kyrie Irving, not successful. Trade request for Kevin Durant, not successful. But all the rumors were about the team with the most assets to possibly give a team like the Brooklyn Nets back in return. And the assets here, looking at just the players in the deal, Mikal Bridges, one of the best defensive players in all of the NBA, is starting to develop a better offensive game as well, kind of a long, lanky defender. Cam Johnson, another good, long, lanky defender. All of these players could still be moved after this deal as well. So don't think this is it for Brooklyn. I think this could possibly signify a significant trend towards selling here at the deadline. Dorian Finney-Smith, maybe they turn around and sell him here at the deadline. They have pretty much sent up the white flag that, hey, we're done. We're not holding on to our stars anymore. They could go ahead and try to make a run at the East right now with the pieces that they have and the first-round pick equity that they have coming in, of course. but I don't think that's the route they're going to go. I think they're going to try to sell these pieces and sell them quickly. So keep your eyes on the Brooklyn Nets tomorrow. We could see a complete fire sale from them tomorrow. But the Phoenix Suns absolutely get the best player in this deal. Congratulations to the Phoenix Suns getting Kevin Durant. Now, before this, I was doing a live today, and somebody asked me, hey, who's your top 4 teams in the West? You really don't think the Suns are that good? And I told him, no, I don't think the Suns are that good. My biggest questions are about their center and about their point guard, and that's still the issues I have, but now I have issues about their bench. Kevin Durant, we saw how he was shut down in the playoffs last year against Jason Tatum and the Boston Celtics. He didn't really have much help, though, from his teammates. Kyrie Irving was a little hit and miss. I think he got injured in that series as well, and things just didn't go well last year for Kevin Durant in the playoffs. That's what kind of spurred the trade request in the first place. Now, fast forward to the trade deadline this year. The Phoenix Suns have certainly gone all out here to try to make a push for the postseason and try to get all the way to the NBA Finals and win it. This is probably the best and final chance that the Phoenix Suns have to try to win it, especially with the draft equity that they're giving up. It's not like they can turn around and trade Kevin Durant in a couple of years and still get this type of trade package back. Durant's only going to be a diminishing return from here on out, so they really have one, maybe a 2-year title window to try to win it. If they don't get it done, we could really see this team start to fall backward. Now, as far as Devin Booker, he's still in the prime of his career. I think he's still going to be an impact player for the Suns for the next 10 years. The question is, though, is he going to be able to stay healthy? He has had some injury issues this year. CP3, we already know he's on the back nine, maybe on the final hole of his career at this point. But this is really the final stab at its relevancy, anyway, for the Phoenix Suns. I do think this will elevate them into the top 4 of the West just because Kevin Durant is that good of a player. The question will be, what type of bench will they have after this? Looking at the trade itself, the Phoenix Suns are giving up Jay Crowder, who hasn't been a part of the team all year. He is likely to be dealt by the Brooklyn Nets, in my opinion, just because I don't see the Nets turning around and saying, hey, all right, we got the pieces we need to win a championship, because they traded their 2 best players on the team. I think this clearly signals a sell for the Brooklyn Nets, and sell they will. The best pieces that they have to still trade right now, in my opinion, Dorian Finney-Smith. Now they can turn around and trade Mikal Bridges, Cam Johnson. All really good defenders are going to be in high demand here at the trade deadline, and there are teams out there that need help at the wing. The LA Lakers, who just made the big trade for D'Angelo Russell, still need help at the wing. Mikal Bridges might be one of those pieces that could go there, or a Cam Johnson, or Dorian Finney-Smith. We'll see where they end up going. But one of the other pieces in this trade for the Phoenix Suns is they got T.J. Warren, anyway, a very good offensive player who has a history with the Phoenix Suns. He played there for a number of years before the trade that sent him to the Indiana Pacers. He had a great coming out party in the bubble a few years ago, had an injury therein, and that's kind of been the story of his career ever since, is that injury. He's finally getting back into game shape. He has suffered a little bit of a setback as far as an injury right now, but he should be coming back healthy, and that's probably going to be your bench piece anyway for the Phoenix Suns, or maybe your 5th starter, if you will. But let us know in the comment section what you think about the trade of Kevin Durant going to the Phoenix Suns. What a move this is. Congratulations to Phoenix. Welcome back, Bryce. Appreciate you for joining us. Durant has always been a player, jump on other teams, that's dominating with stars. Yes, they are. Brooklyn is a disaster. I'm not sure they're a disaster. Do I think they're a contender? No, I never thought they were a contender, however. I thought they were playing way above their heads, and I thought they should have tried to trade both of those star players in the offseason and try to gut their team at that point. They didn't. They held out. They played well. They still may make the playoffs, even or the play-in at the very least, with the roster they currently have assembled. But they are no longer one of the top contenders in the Eastern Conference. I never thought they were. I thought they were a pretender all along. I thought there were at least 4 teams ahead of them. The Celtics, the Cavaliers, the 76ers, and I know I'm missing one off the top of my head, but I did not see them being in that top 4 group. I would even say other teams now have passed them by. I think other teams now have a shot to make it into that top. Oh, the Milwaukee Bucks. That was the other one I was forgetting. But never thought they were a for real team this year. Who could they get? Well, it sounds like they're getting Mikal Bridges, Cam Johnson, 4 picks and more draft compensation, along with Jay Crowder. Crowder, I expect to be dealt here at the deadline. before we get to the end here. But still waiting on more details on the additional draft picks. The first rounders that are completely unprotected that they are getting, the 23, 25, 27, and 29 first round picks. The deal will also help replenish the assets they gave up for James Harden a couple of years ago. Obviously, that deal ultimately did not work out. The trade that they made to get rid of him as well didn't work out as well. So Brooklyn's got a lot of things to correct over the next couple of years. But the Nets got a great package. Yes, they did. What is one name to keep an eye on tomorrow for the best to go after? It will be interesting. Okay, so tomorrow I'd keep my eye on the Brooklyn Nets. As I mentioned, I'd pretty much expect any player that they acquired, any player on their roster to be available to other teams at the deadline. I'm sure the Dallas Mavericks would love to have Spencer Dinwiddie back. Not able to happen. He's going to have to be traded somewhere else here at the deadline. I think he is going to be a man in demand here at the deadline. Think about the LA Clippers. They're a team that needs a point guard. He's a candidate for the trade there. I think the trade that we just saw between the Toronto Raptors and the San Antonio Spurs makes the Raptors a team that is going to buy here at the deadline. They are not going to sell Fred VanVleet. They are not going to sell Gary Trent Jr. They're going to hold on to OG Anunoby and Pascal Siakam. So for those of you holding out hope that the Raptors would sell here at the deadline, not happening. They've added a good defensive player on a 1 year, or his contract expires after this year. They are not looking to sell here the pieces that they currently have. So teams that were hoping to get Fred VanVleet, go ahead and cross him off the board. The next best point guard on the available right now, probably Dorian Finney-Smith and Kyle Lowry. I would put Dorian Finney-Smith, not Dorian Finney-Smith, Spencer Dinwiddie as the better point guard ahead of Kyle Lowry. So keep your eyes peeled for what could happen in Brooklyn. I think they could probably net a first-round pick for Spencer Dinwiddie because of how good of a season he's had so far. They've really had some good young talent develop there in Brooklyn as well, with Cam Thomas having 3 straight 40-point games. They are going to have a ton of talent on that roster right now, especially with the prospects coming with the draft picks over the next several years. Brooklyn's going to be a team to watch out for in about 2 years. I would not say they're a contender right now. I do think they'll be very similar to the way the Utah Jazz have built this season. They traded away their 2 best players and still are in contention for the play-in tournament. I think that's going to be the similar case here for the Brooklyn Nets, but we'll keep it to the upside. We'll keep you guys updated on what happens here at the deadline. But for those of you wondering, what pieces could we see move tomorrow? I think the Brooklyn Nets are in absolute fire sale mode. So go ahead and call them if you're needing a player to kind of fill a role on your team. I know the Dallas Mavericks look a little small right now. Maybe they could get one of those wing players in there and try to fill one of those needs. Say Mikal Bridges is the corner piece, center piece of this deal right now for the Nets. He may be the one piece they try to hold on to, but that doesn't mean that they're not going to try to trade everybody else. They traded a first-round pick to bring in Royce O'Neal. I'm sure the Nets would love to have a first-round pick back for Royce O'Neal at the moment, but obviously that's not going to happen. I don't think he's worth a first-round pick. I didn't think he was worth a first-round pick at that time either. But I would expect the Nets to go into full fire sale mode. The Miami Heat may end up trying to hold on to Kyle Lowry now that the Nets have clearly signaled they are out of contention in the East. I still don't think the Heat should do that. I think they should try to pare down their roster, try to go after things in free agency. I think that's the route that serves them best and has served them best in the past. Remember all the years that they had with Dwayne Wade, LeBron James, Chris Bosh, the success they had bringing in Jimmy Butler, Kyle Lowry, etc. It's because they had flexibility financially. I think they should do something similar this season, or this off season anyway. So by trading a guy like Kyle Lowry or Duncan Robinson allows them to have that financial flexibility going forward. Simmons, anyway, you just mentioned him. Bryce probably wants out. I don't think there's many teams out there clamoring for Ben Simmons, though. If you can get a first-round pick out of him, maybe a couple of protected first-round picks out of him, great. But I don't think he's worth it at this point. Love that. Brad Townsend, anyway, the reporter from for the Dallas Mavericks, anyway, for the Dallas Morning News, if I remember correctly. I mean, Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving were still friends off the court. I mean, KD had his issues with Kyrie on the floor as far as availability and those kinds of things, but they never had issues off the floor. That was never a problem for them. They're still buddies, and so they probably will be competing against each other in the Western Conference playoffs this year. But look how quickly things have changed in just 24 hours. Just 24 hours ago, we probably thought the Eastern Conference was going to be more of a top-heavy conference anyway. You're looking at teams like the Celtics, the Bucks, the 76ers, the Cavs, maybe the Nets, Bulls and Heat as far as the best teams in the East. And on the Western Conference side, you had a bunch of teams that were right around 500, trying to push themselves into contender status anyway by making a move here at the deadline. Dallas certainly did that by bringing in Kyrie. LA certainly did that by bringing in D'Angelo Russell anyway. The Timberwolves moved off of D'Angelo Russell and still brought in Mike Conley. So each team's kind of repositioning themselves a little bit. And then you get the big move here, Kevin Durant to the Phoenix Suns. Now the Western Conference looks significantly more competitive than it did, say, 24 hours ago. And just looking at the conference in particular, looking at the very top of it, you have the Denver Nuggets, then you have a team like the Memphis Grizzlies who are going to have a Dylan Brooks question to answer after the season. Do they then turn around and make a move here at the deadline? I think the piece they were trying to get would have been OG Anunoby to replace Dylan Brooks in that lineup. That is not going to happen. Maybe they can make a call to the Brooklyn Nets about one of their wing players and see if they can get something to swing there. They like to hold on to players long term. They like contract certainty. So Dylan Brooks going to free agency isn't necessarily fit the business model for the Memphis Grizzlies. We could see them make a move here after all the other teams around them have certainly made some additions. Now, Denver is certainly looking like the class of the Western Conference right now, but they're dangling Bones Highland out there. They're looking for a backup big man. They're looking for some point guard help. Now that other teams in the Western Conference have added here at the deadline, expect Denver to try to do something a little bit more aggressive than they may have otherwise now that Kevin Durant is in that conference. Things are a lot more competitive in the Western Conference again. The West was always the better conference for what seemed like, I don't know, a decade anyway, when LeBron was basically running the East. Now things look like they're back to even again. But now we're right back where we started. The West looks just as competitive as they ever have been. We should see a crazy finish in the Western Conference. Things are going to go crazy. Don't place any bets anyway on any team in the Western Conference. Your best odds right now might be to go ahead and just place your bet on LA to make the play, or to at least get into the play-in tournament and at least make it out of the play-in tournament and one of the top 8 seeds. I think they're pretty much solidified now as a playoff team. Phoenix, I think, is solidified even with their injury issues, chemistry issues, the issues with the aging Chris Paul, the chemistry issues with DeAndre Ayton. But Kevin Durant is certainly a great player, one of the top 5 to 10 players in the NBA right now. Even though he is getting older, he is still a dynamic player. I mean, it's 12:39 a.m. on deadline day, and we're talking about Kevin Durant being traded. Still waiting for the breakdown on the additional draft pick compensation as part of this deal, but they get 4 unprotected first-round picks for Brooklyn. Great move for them, but I'm really curious as to what the next domino is for them. But welcome in, Musto. What did Brooklyn get in return? So the full details of the trade, Kevin Durant and T.J. Warren go to the Phoenix Suns in exchange for Mikal Bridges, Cam Johnson, Jay Crowder, 4 unprotected first-round picks, and additional draft pick compensation. That's at least the latest from Woj. Just going to refresh the page just to see if anything else has been done. New Nets owner Matt Ishbia, I'm not sure how to pronounce his name anyway, but the new owner of the Phoenix Suns pushed hard to get this deal done. We heard that he was putting some significant pressure on the front office to make some significant move, whether that was to trade CP3 to get younger, to kind of reinvest the talent on that roster, whether it was to trade DeAndre Ayton for OG Anunoby, or if it was to finally get the Kevin Durant deal done. They finally get one of those 3 deals done. They get the better option of those, in my opinion, in Kevin Durant. I still think they need to find a solution long-term for CP3 because that contract looks like a complete albatross, but their title window is literally this year, next year, and that's it. That's all I'm giving credit for the Phoenix Suns right now as far as being in title contention in the Western Conference. If they do not finish as one of the top 3 seeds this year and do not get into the Western Conference Finals, this year is an abject failure for the Phoenix Suns given what they've invested in this trade. They absolutely have to justify this by getting to the Western Conference Finals and at least making a representative effort to get it, to making the NBA Finals. They have to win the NBA Finals next year, bare minimum, for this trade to be a success for them. If they don't, I look at them the same way I do for the LA Clippers. They got Kawhi Leonard. They got Paul George. Did they win the tournament? Did they win the NBA Finals? Are they champions? No, and that's why I still view the LA Clippers as an underperforming, underachieving team. The LA Clippers, I think, still need to add a point guard. That's why I mentioned Spencer Dinwiddie, Kyle Lowry, Fred VanVleet. Obviously, is going to stay in Toronto now, but things are looking very different right now in the Western Conference. Toronto now is going to try to make a push, I believe, into contention for the in the East anyway. I still think they're going to fall outside of the top 4. I think they still aren't going to make it out of the first round. But they chose to make the decision to go ahead and get their center that they wanted. Podol is expected to get a contract north of $20 million in free agency. So they made the move just before the deal for Kevin Durant was announced. They get Podol in exchange for Kym Burke, a first-round pick in 2024, and 2 second-round picks. That's the other move that gets completely overshadowed by the Kevin Durant move here. But that's a good move for Toronto, I believe, long-term, because it gets their center position solved that they've been trying to do for at least the last 3 years that I can think of. Basically, since the trade that got Kawhi into Toronto anyway, they've been trying to solve that position. Podol was originally one of the draft picks that was part of that trade for Kawhi Leonard in the past from San Antonio. But my, how things have turned. What a 24 hours in the world of the NBA. We'll be live for you guys here in about 7 hours. Going to go ahead and hit the hay, but what a trade here. Kevin Durant goes to the Phoenix Suns. We'll break down the full details of the trade in the morning as more of these details come out. I'm sure it's going to require physicals, and if somebody fails a physical, maybe they alter the deal to get different draft pick compensation or involve a different player. But this trade is still going to be unfolding in the morning, I am sure. We'll try to get you guys up to date on all the latest the second we do go live in the morning. Mikal Bridges is expressing his thoughts on Twitter that he is very shocked that he got traded to Brooklyn. I would be too. I'm shocked that this trade got done in season. I thought they would have waited until after the season to see if Kevin Durant requested a trade, and then they would have made the move. Would Phoenix have been willing to trade this many assets with one less playoff run or with Kevin Durant in it? Maybe, maybe not. But I think the Brooklyn Nets decided to go ahead and cash in their chips now and not wait until Kevin Durant decided to request a trade and just go ahead and make the decision to get it done. I'm sure Kevin Durant behind the scenes, after talking with ownership there, talking with the front office, said, yeah, I'm not really sure about the direction of this team. That's all I would have needed if I'm Sean Marks to go ahead and signal, hey, this guy's thinking about about requesting another trade at least at some point after the trade deadline, maybe even into the offseason. And so we went ahead and decided to get the thing done now. Mikal Bridges, as I mentioned, is the centerpiece of this trade for the Brooklyn Nets. He's going to be the linchpin of their defense along with Ben Simmons. Now, the one thing I will say about Brooklyn, if they hold all the pieces right now that they have on their roster, they are going to be a phenomenal defensive team. Look at the wings that they have right now. Royce O'Neal, A+ defender. Dorian Finney-Smith, A+ defender. Ben Simmons, A++ defender. You got Mikal Bridges, A++ defender. Cam Johnson, as well as a pretty solid defender. Not exactly great, but still very solid. And then you look at the center position with Nick Claxton. They are very, very good defensively. They could use a little bit more help, of course, at the point guard defending position, but they have enough defense right now to compete with anybody in the East. The question will be, can they score enough buckets to get the job done? I think you're looking at your leading scorer right now on that roster probably being Spencer Dinwiddie, maybe Mikal Bridges, Seth Curry. Maybe you're talking about maybe a Cam Johnson starting to fill it up, and then of course Cam Thomas anyway, who's put 40 points on the board in 3 straight games. That's going to be your leading scorer going forward for the Brooklyn Nets the rest of the way, if they keep the deal as currently constructed. I'm sure there's going to be some other teams out there trying to get this trade done as quickly as possible, so they can try to pry one of these pieces out of Brooklyn. I think there's some real value for players like Mikal Bridges, Cam Johnson, Dorian Finney-Smith, Spencer Dinwiddie in the marketplace right now, and Royce O'Neal. I think a Ben Simmons trade would be a little bit too complicated. Of course, I thought the Kevin Durant deal would be too complicated, but here we are. Kevin Durant, not even an hour after I said, nah, it's going to wait until after the season. Nope, done. Just like that. 4 completely unprotected first-round picks. The best defender on that Phoenix Suns team, in addition to Cam Johnson. Jay Crowder as well, and then of course additional draft pick compensation is expected to be included in this deal. My guess is probably pick swaps are going to be involved. Those picks in 27 and 29 are going to be significantly valuable for the Brooklyn Nets organization. Think of what the Boston Celtics did with the picks from the Brooklyn Nets when they made the mistake of including all those first-round picks unprotected. They built their entire core of what they have right now out of those picks. Jason Tatum. They built the core around Jaylen Brown, etc. Think of what the Brooklyn Nets can now do in just a few years with that same type of draft pick compensation that they're going to have. Plus, they're going to be able to kind of pare down this roster a little bit. They don't hold all the picks of their own that they used to have, so they don't have to worry about trying to tank like other teams do. They can still try to stay competitive in the East while still having great picks to look forward to in their future. So we'll see what they decide to do here at the deadline. Really appreciate you guys joining us here last minute. A lot of trades today anyway. Some big trades here right around midnight. Had to go live when Kevin Durant is traded. You have to go live. But really appreciate all the support that you guys have given us. Make sure you join us at 8 a.m. This morning anyway. We'll break down this trade even further with all the details as they continue to come out. We'll refresh the page one more time just to see if any other details are coming. What a move, though. Looks like they got a pick swap in 2028. They created a trade exception of $7.9 million and $1.8 million. They saved their tax another $36 million by doing this trade. They only have the contract of Mikal Bridges, roughly $20 million this year, 21-ish, 22 next, 23 the following, and 25 the last year of the deal. Cam Johnson is an RFA after this year, so they obviously do their free agent shopping here as well. I think they will keep Cam Johnson. As far as Jay Crowder, he's on the final year of his deal. I think he's likely to be dealt as well. But that's kind of the impact of the trade right now. Looks like that might be the full deal. Yeah, it does look like that might be the full deal right now. Yep. 4 first-round picks, a 28-pick swap. So only 1 pick swap. Okay. So that's the full details of the trade. Thank you guys for joining us. Again, we'll see you guys in the morning here in just a few hours after we break down the rest of this deal and all the other trades that are going to happen tomorrow. It's going to be a lively day tomorrow now that Brooklyn has decided to go ahead and throw their hat into the ring as a complete fire sale. Whereas we thought we might get a slower deadline after the Toronto Raptors, just minutes before that, made the move for Jakob Poeltl. We thought, well, Fred VanVleet's off the market, Gary Trent Jr. is off the market, OG Anunoby's off the market, Pascal Siakam's off the market. Nothing's going to happen out of Toronto. Utah already cashed in most of their chips. It's going to be a slow deadline day. Not so fast. We should see a flurry of activity out of Brooklyn tomorrow, so keep your seatbelts fastened. It's going to be a crazy day. We'll see you guys in just a few hours. But thank you guys for joining us. Make sure you follow us here at the Upside Sports Network. Hit that subscribe button, like the video, and make sure you follow us at UpsideSN on Twitter to make sure you know when we go live, when we post a video. But we'll see you guys again tomorrow morning. Well, I should say tonight, or later on today anyway, at 8 a.m. But we'll see you guys then.